The main gear, we talked about that in the last video and a little bit today. The nose gear, what I'm doing right now is I had to replace these tubes on each side, and I bought them from the single place CGS dealer, Bob Santum, I think is how you say his last name. And I bought a new nose wheel welded assembly, and I'm actually in the process of fitting that right now. You can see everything is just clecoed together for now. I actually don't really have this in the correct position. I found it has to move back so that the forward edge is aligned with the edge of the tube here. Now, the builder of my airplane used a square tube instead of the round tube provided. I don't know if he ruined the round tube that came in the kit, or just found it easier, or just felt it more intuitive to have a nice flat surface to mount the rudder pedals to. You can see it looks like the rudder pedals have been moved a couple of times. The airplane was converted to tri-gear by the last owner. It was originally a tail dragger. And I'm glad. I wanted a tri-gear. I'm a low-time pilot. Don't have a tail wheel endorsement. We'll get more into my flying resume, or I should say lack thereof, in another video. But anyway, a tri-gear is what I wanted, and it's a very capable airplane in tri-gear for a lot of reasons. Anyway, the provided pilot holes for this nose gear piece right now align with this tube, but this is not in the place it needs to be, at least not to make it per plans for one, and also to fit the hole that I have in the sail on the front of the airplane. So I'm going to have to move this back, and I'm going to have to drill new holes that align with this tube. So I'm not really sure what happened there. The angles of these tubes are probably slightly off. I do notice that, the builder drilled a new hole instead of using the hole provided by the factory in the gusset. I don't know. Everything works fine. I'm not concerned about the extra hole in the gusset. For sure, it's deburred properly. So anyway, I just need to restore it to the condition it was in when it worked, and that'll be fine. So I'm going to go ahead and take my old piece here, which is all bent up, and I decided one of these welds is broken. So I talked it over with my friend Jake Drummond, who is doing some of the welding work for me, and he decided, you mentioned that, one, you got to heat this up and flatten it out properly, and then you have to get in there with a torch and fix that broken weld, which you could probably do, but the price for a new one wasn't that bad. I just decided to save him the work, as he's doing me a favor here and doing this stuff, and it's one less thing for him to do, and I just bought a new part, which is powder coated and pretty. So what I'm going to do here is, and you can see the original builder also didn't match the factory provided holes, so something with that angle, looks like he did on one side, something with that angle just wasn't working. So I'm going to take a piece of paper here, just like I did with the saddle, and I'm going to make a rubbing of this hole pattern and transfer it over to the new part and get some pilot holes in there. Probably going to pilot the bottom too when it's out of the airplane, and I can get a block of wood underneath it and get through the steel. That's what I'm doing today. So I will probably hop back on here with you and show you how it worked out, and we'll talk to you soon. Okay, I'm back here with the nose gear fitting for the Hawk, and as I said, I'm going to take a rubbing of the hole pattern. So I've got some paper here, just some regular note paper off of my notepad, taped onto the old part with some tape that's been in the hanger for a while, for way too long, so it keeps tearing off the roll, and I keep having to use my fingernail and try to keep it from being a mess. But anyway, I'm getting it to work. So I had to take my pencil. I had already taken a utility knife and sharpened, if you will, took an edge off. You kind of see it there for rolling the saddle, and it was easier on the full pencil to kind of hold it on the curvature of the tube. Well, here I'm working on a flat part, so I had to take my pair of pliers and just snap this off and do a rubbing. So I'm not trying to get nearly as precise as I was with the saddle and the boom tube and the main gear saddle. I'm just trying to get a basic alignment, and I'll space the new holes. This is a little closer to the edge than I would like, and I don't know if I'm going to have to make this cutout. I'm sure that's for the rudder pedal hinge stock that's riveted to that cross tube, that square tube that the builder put in. We'll see whether or not I can get away with leaving that square on the factory part. Not a big deal, just probably will have to take it home where I have a grinder to cut that corner off if I do end up having to do that. And hey, I guess there's no downside. It makes the part lighter. That's a good thing. And then here you can see I can fold this back and just see if I missed anything. Like for instance, for a split second I thought there was a hole here, and then I said, well, why the heck would there be a hole there? There's no part there. So obviously there wasn't, not a big deal, so I'm good. I made sure that I took a rubbing of the outline of the part so that I can line it up with the new part. And actually while I'm here, I'm going to try to get a rough center line of the nose gear strut hole so that I can just compare how that all aligns with the new part. This part was provided in the year 2000. I think, maybe not. I think it was. I think it was part of the original kit, because the aircraft was built as tri-gear, then converted to tail dragger, and then converted back to tri-gear again by the last owner. And who knows what slight changes, since the company's changed hands a couple of times, who knows what slight changes in this part may have been made through the years. So I'm going to get an index here just to make sure that everything is coming out where I think it's supposed to be coming out in terms of its location. So I'll do the other side here and then transfer to the new part, get the holes in there. Won't worry about this corner for now. And then after getting the holes in the top of the new part, then I'll go ahead and do a rubbing on the back of this old part for the holes on the other side. Transfer the holes to the new part, get those holes in place, and we'll see where we are. Okay, and so I've got the rubbings done and transferred over to the new part. This part is bent, kind of concave, so I had trouble rubbing a couple of these holes, so I just poked holes in the paper with the tip of the pencil to get it. And it's a good thing I put these marks on the gear tube, because I started putting this paper on the new part upside down and thought, oh boy, what's going on? But then quickly figured out that, okay, the paper just needs to go on the other way. Duh. So here, I'm just going to, before I start drilling holes, it's like a haircut, you know? You can always take more off, you can't put it back on. So I'm gonna bring it over and just put it in and make sure that the tubes kind of end up in line with the old hole locations, since they are new tubes, and I did drill and cleco them in, and I think I used all the correct holes that was in it before, but I would just feel better sticking it in there one more time, making sure that it works. Okay, so I've got the nose gear fitting in place here, and I made sure it's kind of centered as well it can be. It's centered between the heel plates, just about perfectly. Now I measured from the edge of the tube to the edge of this tube, and you know, it was slightly to the left by, I don't know, not even 1/8 of an inch. So I'm not going to worry about it. It matters more that you know, it basically butts right up to the heel plates on each side, and that's good. Now I got it in here and have the holes that I did from the rubbing, and I thought, well, I can't really see the alignment and predict where this tube is going to be, so let me go get my straight edge. So I got my straight edge, and I thought, well, you know, they're not really lined up that good. Well, dummy, why don't you just make a new line instead of doing the whole rubbing thing? So that's what I did. you know, bear with me, guys. I'm not an expert. I just play one on YouTube. So I just drew a new line on each side, and I'm going to do that and drill and cleco it in place. I'm not even really worried too much here. I might lay out a couple of holes up here just to really lock in the position. Once it's clecoed, then I'll put another couple pieces of paper on the bottom. With my straight edge, I'll just project the straight line of the tube, and then I can lay out my holes real nice and clean, and have a nice looking hole pattern. It already is going to drive me crazy that we're going to have these empty holes, which you probably can't even see here. I don't even kind of see them. At least they're powder coated factory holes, but you can see they don't line up, and that's just a variation. See, on both sides they don't line up. That's just a variation of how the original builder built the airplane. And you know, I don't know, this vintage of a kit, how much of this stuff was you know, pre-located. And you know, each amateur built airplane, or in this case home built ultralight, is unique. It's a snowflake, a fingerprint, and there are going to be little variations. There are going to be errors that the builder made. Is this a hugely consequential error? No, absolutely not. This is a safe, well-built airplane overall. But yeah, I'm going to always be driven just a little bit nuts by those holes that are empty. Whatever. That's my OCD, and I just need to get over it. Okay, so I've got the piece out of the airplane again, the new part, and I've lined up holes. So what I did is I marked the 1 inch for the 1 inch square tube on each side here along the line of the tube, and then put new holes in. So I actually poked through with the pencil where the factory provided pilot holes are so that I could stay well clear of them. And I went a 1/2 inch in from the square tube to make sure I'm into the round tube with plenty of edge distance. I went basically 1/2 inch along this line from the edge of the part. So that's a 2 inch span, put the third hole right in the middle. So I have 1 inch spacing, 3 holes. That'll be great. Do the same on both sides. Now you can see here that the factory provided holes align pretty well with that line. And when I originally test fit the part, I shoved it all the way forward so that these did line up with the tubes. But this overhung the front of the front square tube, cross tie, by about 1 inch. And obviously it moves the location of my nose gear strut. So without even referencing the plans to see where that nose gear strut is technically supposed to be, I knew that I didn't want to do that, because then obviously then I would miss my hole through the Dacron covering of the front of the aircraft. So I want to keep that right where it is. Also, that'll make sure that my steering pushrod link, when I make the new one, because that did bend, that I can make it to the same length as the old one, and that I'll be within plenty of adjustment area to adjust the steering, and everything will work out. No fuss, no muss. So there we are. We're going to go ahead and drill these holes. We'll get her clecoed in place, drilled and clecoed in place, and then I'll probably mark and probably drill the bottom with it in place, because it's fairly rigid when it's on there, and then I'll take it apart, deburr it, put it back together, and rivet it up. Okay, so we've got the nose gear fitting, steel fitting, powder coated, drilled and clecoed in place with 3/32 clecos, both on the top and on the bottom. Now you'll notice I don't have clecos in the bottom because the builder decided to use this square tube, and I replaced the square tube instead of going with the round tube, because I thought, well, that's not bad, because the rudder pedals sit on it nice and flush instead of having to curve over the tabs right there that the rudder pedals attach to the tube with. It's just simple with a square tube, so that's what I did. 16th wall square tube, inch square. Now the issue though is that even though this is 1 inch tubing and a 1 inch square tube, we end up with a space, and I've got two pieces of 025 scrap, and I was thinking I could shim it. It's hard to see. Yeah, there you can get a good look at it. That's not enough. I'm gonna have to come in with probably some cut off angle legs of 1/8 inch extruded aluminum angle. Just get some straight sticks, maybe 1 inch wide or 3/4 of an inch wide, cut off of the angle leg to use as spacers. So no problem, I can come back with that. I'm gonna go ahead and up drill this all to 1/8 inch, take it apart, deburr it, put it in, and I'm gonna rivet in place except for these holes. I will up drill these holes to 1/8 inch, and then when I come back, it'll all be deburred on both sides, and then the holes in the steel plate will center the drill bit really well through the spacers to get us to the tube. So I'm really not worried about that. Then I can take the spacers out, deburr them, and rivet them when I come back to the hanger on another day with that material. So we'll go ahead and up drill, take it apart, deburr, put it back together, cleco it together, then replace clecos with rivets. Okay, we're all up drilled and we're clecoed. I took everything off, deburred. I also had to get out the electric cutoff wheel grinder and cut those corners, as you see there in the left and the right, so that they would clear the rudder pedals. And the old part had that too, so I had to do it to this one. I don't have any spray paint with me to touch up those corners, so I think I'll bring that back along with the 1/8 inch shims that I need for the bottom of the tubes, and I'll rivet it on another day. Okay, we're back a couple hours later because Tim Johnson stopped by and we chatted for a while. We're hanging out, and you know, maybe I was just working a little slow. It's my day off anyway. Today's Friday, and I took the day off to come and work. So I've got this all in there. You can see I've got the two corners cut out. I actually took the time and riveted the rudder pedals back in, and up drilled all these to 3/16. Now I don't have a cleco for 3/16, so I just used rivets loosely in there just to keep everything indexed. But to be honest, this has got quite a bit of just clamp pressure because of the welded assembly being a little bit warped, and it's not going anywhere without a hammer. So that's all up drilled. I'm gonna take it off of there, deburr it, and I got a little bit of black spray paint that Tim had in his cabinet. It's matte, so I guess I'll mask this off with some paper and just shoot these corners. Don't want to mess up the beautiful glossy finish of the powder coating. So we'll spray that and let it dry for probably a wholly inadequate amount of time, and then we'll go ahead and rivet her back on, put it on and rivet it. And that's going to be it for the night. Okay, so I also put the rudder return springs in just now. The airplane didn't have rudder return springs. It had bungees that were all worn out and stretched, and they weren't doing anything. So got the springs directly from Hawk, and I don't know if this is the hole that they're really supposed to go in, but that's where I put them, and they seem to be the perfect length. They're doing the job really well, so I like it. I'm good. I got the piece painted, and just masked it up here a little bit and just painted the corners, and oh yeah, now I can start to see some of the matte coming through, so I'm glad I masked it. And a few more minutes, I'll let it dry, pop it in there, rivet, and then I gotta go. All right, all riveted in with the 3/16 rivets. I got 10 of them on the top, and I will eventually have 10 on the bottom. Right now I just have 4 on the bottom because I got to get some spacers in there. I did find some material that I can use over here at the hangar. We'll see, I'll use that or grab some stuff at the from home. I'm gonna do the 1/8 inch rivets here when I come back next time because I gotta go, gotta feed the dog. See you next time. All right, I'm back here at the hangar, and I've got my son Gavin here, and he likes to work the cleco pliers for me. It seems to be one of his favorite things here at the hangar, other than walking up and down the runway. Let's see what he can see. He's gonna hold the camera for me. There you go, Gavin. And as you can see, I've got some clamps in here, And with some careful clamping, I was able to close up the distance here that we had. Just a matter of the welded part having some warping, needing it to clamp it together. So you can see I've got these lower line of 3/16 rivets in place. About to put one in now. And 3/16 are a little bit of a pull with the hand rivet gun. There we go. And that's one down, 2 to go. All right. You like that, buddy?
Yeah.
All right, so Gavin just got a little lesson on how a rivet works, where I pulled the rivet not in the hole so you can see how it squishes. So here I've got all the rivets in. I didn't need to make any spacers to take up space here. I just was able to clamp everything together. I was really careful about clamping up here to make sure that in bending this part of the steel fitting that we weren't trying to pull these rivets out of the extruded square tube, and everything seems to have held pretty good, so we're in good shape. This project, this part of the project is done. All right, you ready for this, buddy?
Yeah.
All right, pull! Pull! Watch your feet, don't get cut. Keep pulling. Keep pulling. All right. That one's a little harder.
Yep,
Oh, I'll get that one for you.